Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and in today's video, we're going to do something a little bit different. Now, I don't normally do these types of videos, but we're going to be talking about exactly why I think that the next Scourge Death Horseman character is not going to be who a lot of people think it might be. So a lot of people have been suggesting and rumors circulating that it's going to be Archangel. And I personally don't think it's going to be him. There's a couple of reasons for that, to be honest. The easiest one is that I think so many people are wanting that to be it, that it's just not going to be it. Because Scopely knows we want that. And that's why, that's one of my larger reasons why I think we're not going to get it. Now, does that mean we're not going to get a Mutant Raid team? I think we still will at some point. I just don't think that's going to be who we're going to be getting for this. And so who is it going to be then? And I think a lot of people are on the fence about whether or not it's going to be Mutant or Skill. And so that's where I'm headed with this video topic today, is we're going to talk about who I think it's going to be in the Skill category and the characters that I think that might be coming. So if you're ready to go, then let's boil this down. And I want to start here in my roster, because not all the time, because with Unlimited X-Men we did get 5 new characters, but with Darkhold we got 4 new characters in Scarlet Witch. With Gamma we had Hulk, She-Hulk, and 3 new characters. So that means that I'm gonna wager that it's going to use some existing characters with some new ones. And the reason why I say that is because right now we're going to be going into patch 6, we're in patch 6.4, but we're going to be going into 6.5 probably by the end of October. And I think that the patch isn't solely going to be occupied by the Death team. So what I think is going to happen is there might be a couple of characters, new characters unrelated to Death, and then we're going to be going into the Death Scourge. Now, whether or not Death is going to be in patch 6.5, or if he's going to be in the winter patch in 6.6, which is going to be in December, not sure. Because if we only get 4 characters, say, for 6.5, then we could be getting 2 characters for another team, and then maybe 2 characters for Death, or 3 characters for Death, and then Death could be at the start of the next patch after that. Anyways, so who am I basing this team around? None other than Baron Zemo. And I think you might be knowing, you might be thinking about where I'm going with this. I actually think that, it's going to be a skill team, because so many people wanted to be a Mutant Raid team that I just don't think they're going to give it to us. You know how long we waited for a Tech Raid team to happen? A long time. We were talking about it for like multiple Doom Raids. So there wasn't a Tech Raid team ever, right? Not even in Doom 1. So, we're like, it took 3 raids to get that. And we had Astonishing X-Men in Doom Raid 1. So, I think I'd be able to wager that we probably will get a Mutant Raid team. I just think it will be a bit delayed. I think it'll be maybe after the Christmas break. Things like that, maybe into the new year, maybe January. And so I'm thinking about the Thunderbolts. And now I know what you're talking about is that, the Thunderbolts has been greenlit for a MCU tie-in. And, that they wait for that. But that's so far down the line that, honestly, I don't think that it necessarily excludes these teams or characters. And I'm not saying that actually we're taking all of the characters from the MCU, because they don't always do that either. Sometimes what they do is in Marvel Strike Force, we'll do a team, and then when the stuff comes out later on, they'll do a costume for a character. Hell, Baron Zemo already has a costume, maybe we'll get another one. But I think that he would be included in one of the character reworks. Now, does he really need a rework? He probably doesn't need a really big one. But his stats nowadays he's really glass cannon-y, but he just wouldn't hold up a lot now. I have a Gear Tier 15, level 85 Zemo, because I was reusing him again in Arena. And he has like 300,000 hit points. That's really bad. Compared to some of the characters nowadays. But he's so well known for his speed, which is why a lot of people had them. Now, if you compare to other characters in the Horseman teams that have had reworks, She-Hulk, Hulk, and Scarlet Witch, I would say that Baron Zemo, even though I'm listing him here, probably is one character that more people have leveled up than any of the other 3. I think that some people, when the Wave 1 had reworked, you know, I did know people who had Gear Tier 14 and 15 Hulk prior to Gamma. Most people didn't bother investing in She-Hulk, and I think that Scarlet Witch, not many people really bothered with that either. So I think some people might see that and say, well, this is probably unlikely. And I think that just Baron Zemo is so well known for being with the Thunderbolts, and I'm looking for the team to be more of a villain team. It doesn't have to be a full villain team. It could be a little mix, and some of the characters that we're going to talk about are characters that could be either hero or villain. But I think that in this instance, I do want to see more villain characters be useful in Marvel Strike Force, because we have a real problem with not having a wide range of villain characters, both for new players and for just in general, for, you know, if you don't have these big name villains for, say, Scourge events or whatever, then it makes things really difficult. And so I want this to be that villain team that maybe newer players might be able to gravitate towards a little bit with some of the reworks. And there's one other character, and the reason why I want to talk about this character before we talk about the new ones, is because honestly, I thought he should have been on the Underworld team, to be frank, because when I saw the characters involved in Underworld, which you can see most of them listed here as well, Taskmaster, Green Goblin, Kingpin, and Nobu, I was like, why the hell is Nobu on this team? He just seemed the odd one out from a lore perspective, and like there's connections between some of the other ones, but when it comes to Nobu, like, what the hell is he doing on there? And so I got really confused about that, personally. And you know who I thought should have been on that team, and who's not, and why I think this is suspicious now? Is Bullseye. So I think that Nobu shouldn't have been on this team, and Bullseye should have been on the Underworld team. And since he's not on the Underworld team, that makes me very suspicious. Okay? So there always has to be that trash character. That trash character, semi-trash character on the Horseman teams, right? There's like Scarlet Witch, Phantom X, he's a newer character, but still, there's always like one trash character. And I guess for Gamma, some people are saying it's She-Hulk. That She-Hulk is kind of like, if you had to take one of them to be the trash character, it's going to be She-Hulk. She's really expensive to build, and I guess doesn't make a big difference. So I think Bullseye could be that for the skill team for the Horseman, the Death Horseman team. He could get a really good rework. Just comparably to the new characters, he might not be as good. You know, there's always going to be that one character that is just a little bit worse off. And because I think that Bullseye, and the reason why I'm talking about this is because I thought that Bullseye had so much connection, so much more connection to these other characters on the Underworld team. Kingpin, Taskmaster, who's also a Thunderbolts, by the way. Taskmaster is quite heavily involved in the Thunderbolts team, and so I was a little bit disappointed when I saw that. And that kind of reminds me, I was talking about it with someone on Discord, about the disappointment of, for example, when She-Hulk wasn't on A-Force. And then instead, She-Hulk ended up being on the Gamma team, right? Because She-Hulk is a member of A-Force. That was rumored for some time, and it didn't happen. And so now that Bullseye's not on the Underworld team with, you know, alongside Green Goblin or Norman Osborn and Kingpin, this makes a lot of sense here. He's not on the team, and so I think he's going to be a character that they're going to use, and he's going to be that character that nobody has geared that you're not going to want to level up, but you have to because he's a Death Scourge team character. I honestly think that this is possible. Now, as far as the other mutant, this is not about mutant raids in this, necessarily, but I think that there will be a team, and I think there's a good possibility that that Excalibur team could come out. I just don't think it has to be a Death Scourge team. I think they could still do the same team, just it doesn't have to be a legendary team. It could just be 5 other characters, or hell, there could be some X-Men synergy going on with some of the other characters like Gambit and Rogue. That synergy, maybe it's just 3 characters, right? You know, for that team, and that's all they need, and then you plop in Rogue and Gambit, and you're good to go, or who knows, some of the other X-Men. And because it makes me wonder what's going to happen, right? Because we don't know the stats and the traits on Apocalypse, but I have to gather that he is going to be a mutant character. And standalone, that means he'd be ploppable into the mutant raid. You know, whether or not he'd... Who knows what his kit's like, but that's why I'm wondering whether or not this is the case or not, because otherwise, if the Death team is another mutant team, then you would have your pick of the litter. You would have 2 mutant horsemen and their respective teammates that you could use, hypothetically, in Doom Raid. So now that that's been put out of the way, Baron Zemo and Bullseye, I think one or both are kind of that starting point for this team. And so we need to go to the Marvel Wiki, of course. Now, this is the new Thunderbolts. I don't know if anyone keeps up with the comics. There's a good guy Thunderbolts now, led by Hawkeye with America Chavez, Monica Rambeau, and some new guy, and I don't know, some a Power Man, like a new version of him. It's not Luke Cage. It's like Victor Alvarez or something like that. I don't know who this is. So we're not talking about that necessarily, but I have a couple of other things here. So Baron Zemo now, he looks pretty badass. I like a skin. Well, I was gonna say skin, but he has that winter region skin. I want to talk about Agent Anti-Venom, or Agent Venom, specifically Agent Venom, actually, not Agent Anti-Venom. So this is Flash Thompson, and he has affiliations with the Thunderbolts as well. And some people are saying, well, okay, they have to be skilled, right? And that's the biggest problem. If you look at some of the former members of the Thunderbolts, there's a lot. There's a lot of former members of Thunderbolts. But finding ones who could possibly pull off a skill tag is difficult. Characters both in and out of Marvel Strike Force who are not in it yet, it's just a lot of them, and I think skill is very challenging to maybe define as a skill character. So part of this makes me believe that Strike Force would find a way to make them skill, even though they're questionable. You know, that they could be two different origins, for example. And so while I understand that some people are like, well, there's a symbiote attached to Flash Thompson, I think that, you know, he's using a lot of his skill to, you know, all the stuff that he knows so far, right? And that just helps him in his durability, basically. And so I do think that whether we get Agent Anti-Venom or Agent Venom, this was a rumor from a long time ago, actually. This was there. You know, we were, and there's actually another character that we're going to talk about who was also in some of the rumors who I think could come back. Now, who would be the Horseman, I guess? And we're gonna go over all three of them, and then we'll talk about who I think it could be. So this is the first one that I think it could be. Flash Thompson. Agent Venom, Agent Anti-Venom. Agent Venom was the one that we actually had the rumor from in the past. Second person, Kraven the Hunter. Also has affiliations with Thunderbolts. He does affiliations with the Sinister Six, but maybe if we're lucky, he might also get a Spider-Verse tag. But I don't know if that's necessary or not. Kraven the Hunter. So I know that he also has, his origins are, I think, semi-mystical based. I can't say I'm an expert on Kraven's origins, but I know that he does have very much of a skill aspect in terms of his fighting style, the way that he does things, and so I could see that being the case, and I could see that argument from Marvel Strike Force to include Kraven as a skill character. He's also a villain, or he should be tagged as a villain. I mean, I know he's not always 100% a villain, but, you know, I think that he probably should be in Marvel Strike Force, and we need more villain characters, like I talked about. Now, Flash Thompson, of course, you know, probably is not going to be a villain character, but they don't all have to be. Like I said, I'm okay with, like, one or two of them being a villain, just like Darkhold has Wong and Scarlet Witch, so 2 heroes and 3 villains. I'm okay with the mixed team as well. Kraven the Hunter, I'd really love to see come to the game. I think he would be very cool. And the one good thing that is great about Marvel Strike Force is the art department tends to do really, really well. And I would love to see how they decided to do this for him, if they bring him out. So, someone that I've always really wanted to come. I've kind of wanted him to come on the Sinister Six team, but now I think there's a good reason to possibly bring him out for a Thunderbolts team as well. And they don't have to... We've learned from other team releases that all of the 5 characters on that team does not have to be related. Like, they don't have to be related to each other. They don't have to be from the same team era. Because Amadeus Cho or Brawn, for example, he has a very loose connection to some of these other characters, to like Red Hulk, for example. Who some people might then say in the comments down below, because we have Red Hulk, we're not getting the Thunderbolts, because Red Hulk was known to be a leader of the Thunderbolts. I think it's still possible, though, and I think this is something that the Marvel Strike Force team thinks about as well. But yeah, Brawn for Gamma, for example, didn't have a lot of connection to some of these other characters, with the exception of Hulk, because of the Hulk persona, basically, after Bruce Banner died. And then after that, I really don't think that he had a lot of connection to these other characters on the Gamma team. Same with Silver Samurai, for example, in Weapon X, other than his connection to Wolverine. I really don't think he had any connection to, like, Omega Red, for example. So it was kind of weird there. But let's talk about the third and final character that I would like to come to the Thunderbolts team for the Death team. And that's going to be John Walker, U.S. Agent. Another character that was rumored quite a bit ago, quite consistently, actually. Both him and Agent Venom, Flash Thompson, were both rumored a lot, and it never happened. I think that he very much could be pigeonholed into a skill character. Some people might say that yes, he could also be bio, because he's got like some serum shit going on, and in the MCU, he's got the super soldier serum, which is a little bit different, I think, than in the comic lore. But nonetheless, I think that this could be very much a possibility. And what's interesting, though, is, of course, if we look at the... I think if we go down to... his description here... Past all the powers and stuff. His abilities. U.S. Agent is a superb soldier, tactician, and fighter. He has been personally trained by Taskmaster in combat, gymnastics, and acrobats. So, to me, that means that, yes, you could make an argument for him to be a skill character. And that's the problem, though, is that I think with a lot of the characters that are skill in Marvel Strike Force, you kind of have to do that. You kind of have to make an argument for them to be a skill character when they could be something else as well. Unless they just flat out don't have any powers at all, then that's kind of easy, like Black Widow, for example. But, And so the last thing I want to talk about is, this is the MCU article for the Thunderbolts, if you're not aware. The cast of characters are listed for here. And the only reason why I'm bringing this up is just because I want to kind of just go over it a little bit. Other characters that possibly could make the team. I mean, Yelena Belova. I think if we were going into a different direction, then if we were going more MCU based, which we don't have to do, you could go Yelena and Red Guardian as existing characters, because they're both going to be in the movie, and then we're still going to get U.S. Agent and John Walker, and then the other two that I talked about. So Taskmaster, this is a different Taskmaster than like the comic lore Taskmaster. We're not going to get Ghost because she's tech. Winter Soldier is currently in the game as bio, unless they bring out a new, different version of him or something. But I think the only likelihood, other than Baron Zemo and Bullseye, would be Yelena and Red Guardian. And that would, I guess, give the Red Guardian as the tank, Yelena as she's a blaster, but they both would need a very big stat bump, base stat increase, and then, of course, Kraven the Hunter as a brawler, probably. And then somebody would need to be a support. So I guess it could be Agent Venom. If it's going to be a raid team, somebody needs to heal, or there needs to be some sort of healing mechanic. It doesn't have to be a straight up healer support character, but they need to be able to do that in some way, kind of like the way that the symbiotes did with Carnage, or that they had the Drain permanently activated. They need something like that to keep them alive, right? And so I guess that brings us to the final question: who's going to be Death? Is it going to be U.S. Agent? Is it going to be Kraven the Hunter? Or is it going to be Agent Venom? My personal thoughts is actually U.S. Agent. I think it's going to be John Walker to be the Death Scourge character. Maybe I'm crazy. Sometimes I am. But, I think it would be very interesting. I think it would really flip things on its head a little bit. Whether or not he's a hero or a villain character, I mean, he really walks that line a little bit, I think, in the MCU. He does a lot of very questionable things. And in the comics, he has been known to kind of walk the line a little bit here. I wouldn't be bothered either way, but I hope that some of the characters on this team are villains. That way it would give more characters to be used for just the villain trait in general. Let me know in the comments down below what you think. Let me know if you think I'm crazy, because maybe I am. But I have this strange feeling that we're not going to get them as mutants, because I just think that so many people wanted to be that's not what we're going to get. But who knows? It's probably not that long left to find out. Probably we'll find out within the next couple of weeks in a blog post or something like that, because there's not a lot of time left before patch 6.5, and that's when we need to start talking about some of these characters. So that's everything here, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.